Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Friday, October 17th, ETF edition of Trading Trends. It's been quite the week. Apologies, been a little bit busy this week, so did not have normal, 3 times a week videos on stocks and ETFs to open up the week, but it's been a volatile week. Let's take a look at the charts. A lot of people are screaming that the sky is falling. Other parts are saying that things are looking just fine and people are upping their targets. Let's get rid of narrative and just look at charts, maybe some mixed opinions, maybe some things that firm out. So let's get to it first. And thank you for joining. I know a lot of stuff moved this week. So if you have a ticker or something, put it in. We will take a look. There's lots of movement this week. And we're going to step back and really see what happened in the past 5 days. And to be honest, there's a little bit of a teaser. I don't think it's all bad. We'll take a look. So again, Trading Trends. Thanks for joining today. Staples and Brazil, big moves, up 1.5% for Staples. That's pretty decent move as it's not super volatile, obviously defensive trade. In Brazil, they flooded into EWZ today, up 1.5%. And boy, oh boy, we said when the gold miners and the whole metals trade pulls back and they want to exit that for being the most oversold or overbought it's ever been, look out. You're going to wake up. I said this on Spaces on Tuesday. I said you're going to wake up and silver's going to be down 7%. I was off by a little. It was down 4.5% today. We'll take a look at all the meaningful trades or charts. Gold miners today, silver and the metals trade all pulled back between 2 and 3 standard deviations, pretty much 2. Big moves lower there. We'll take a look at all those charts as well, but a big step back there. And to be honest, we've been saying to wait for this opportunity. It's not the end of these trends. And also a new all-time high for gold before it reversed and did not hold on to its gains. And then also this week, when we all step back, when all said and done, characterized by South Korea and Taiwan getting around 8%. We'll take a look at the charts. Those were the big trades of the week. They weren't shorts. You would think it was flooding the U.S. markets. It wasn't. It was actually South Korea and Taiwan, Samsung and Taiwan Semi, more parts of tech really accumulating, advancing 8%. That's bullish to me. And the other thing that really fell and a big absolute move was Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a not horrible, but a pretty treacherous week, down 9%. We've been calling for the dip and the rip. The support held, and then it broke a little bit. We'll take a look at the IBIT chart, and it is still one of your top 3 leaders year over year. We'll, of course, do a year over year recap. And Bitcoin is number 3. It's not number 1. It's not number 2. Hence why I said number 3. So let's get into it. Hope everyone is doing superb. Looking forward to your weekend here. Let us get into the dashboard. It is good to be back. Let's look into some stocks. Okie dokie. Just some moves first. Tesla, it's 2.5%. Stock looks great, holding basically 440 GLD. We talked about that. It printed 397 GLD. That is your new all-time high. And then it pulled back down 2%. GLD still looks absolutely tremendous. Oracle down 7% and a big give back there. Apple up 2%. Broadcom down 1%. Bitcoin today alone down 1.5%. And Taiwan Semi, aforementioned, down 1.5%. Stock looks absolutely great. IBIT overall, I will say, does not look stupendous. It's kind of a somewhat of an important marker, but we'll take a look at the IBIT chart. I still think even if it does have room to go, the trend is still in place. All right, that's enough about that for now. Let's go on the intraday chart on SPY. So here is the opening bell. And to be honest with you, this notation right here is 50 RSI. We were more buyers than sellers all day. This black line is a 200 bar moving average, each bar 30 minutes. So that constitutes by, short-term trader hat. And really, towards the end, I knew there was going to be resistance there about 663, and we actually got to it at 2 o'clock. So nice strength all the way into resistance with a curling higher VWAP. We closed above VWAP, which was 662. We closed at 665. Pretty much good action, in my opinion, for the day. Up 0.5% is SPY. We'll take a look at the near collapse or a big drop we'll talk about in VXX and volatility today. The markets did take a sigh of relief. As I zoom out here, so we're talking about this before. Let me really just pull up my notes and everything. I want to be precise on this because a lot of people are saying, market freaked out and all that. So sometimes right here, I'm looking at my notes. October 9th. Let me go to the October 9th calendar. It was the day before this crazy, the all-time high and the bearish engulfing, okay? So right here, we said the markets are going to probably hug somewhere around 675. It got to 674. I said over the next 2 weeks, right around to about the 24th, which is a week from today, next Friday, I would look for entries at about 664, 665, right around there. And if things get ugly, they're going to send it to 650. Literally the next day, they sent it to 653. They tested it 2 days later at 653 again and held. And today's low, 651. Now, what you get still a nice rising 200-day moving average. In terms of when this happened before, it's interesting. 2 times this year, we had a similar percent collapse in that same time measure of time, type of duration of time, the length of 8 very bearish days when you had big candles like that. And the last time it happened, I do this through a stochastic momentum mix, was back in February when we had printed 612, and then just right here on the 19th, 612. And then right there, we're all the way back down. We're all the way down at 589. That's a pretty big percent collapse in just 2 weeks. The problem is it resolved lower to do 52-week lows in April. The other time it had happened was it kind of, so it was a week before Christmas. Here we had gone from 610, and a short time frame later, we went down to 585. And that had another bearish week, and then we resolved higher. So kind of in terms of that, in terms of the internals of the velocity of the fall, we had kind of 2 instances that happened last December and April. One resolved higher, the other one resolved lower. Again, so here's we're saying what happened. Technically, it did happen. I was looking for a 2-week correction. It did it all in one day. It's almost like when you're, you've been drinking and you vomit. Sometimes you feel better immediately after. Sometimes it takes a little bit of while. You need your, sausage, egg, and cheese, etc. This is kind of what happened to me in the market, kind of puked. We'll take a look at regional banks. There's a lot of talk about bad loans going around. I do like that we held the RSI here. So we got to 42 if you were able to quickly seize on October 10th, last Friday, that bloody day where we were down 2.7% in SPY. And you have a nice little volume, fourth highest day of the year there. And then you held where you have to here, 650. As I zoom out here, so I think the market is going to base. So let me get back to, let's go to the forecast here. So I had said before, around the 24th, to get ready to buy this market. That is Friday. And I said under 663 will reward you. And I love entries around 650. We are currently at 664. All right, 665. As I said, not really anything I said changes. Under 663, I think it will reward you. It may frustrate you in the short term, but I still do like the flows that we're seeing in overall in mega cap tech. And if you get an entry on some kind of volatility around 648 to 652, I think that will reward you as well into the end of the year. Those are your levels, and obviously to the upside, no one's really looking for that immediately right here. But if you get some vol expansion and people go the other side of the boat positioning, then we can get back to a 675. Short term, as I'm saying for this week, I think we base right around that 663 level. Under that, good entry, and then I'm looking for right around that 680 or 675 mark for SPY around early November. All right, so that's my call here. So kind of business as usual. Like to see this obviously hold more than 50 RSI and make strides to get higher. Again, you saw the bearish divergence here when we had those all-time highs. Right there, we hit 674. I said, look out, let's get easily, due to the weakness inside, we could easily get to 665 and possibly 654. And here we are at 665. Let's take a look at the charts inside, what is really moving. But overall, and last thing about this, in terms of what will change my mind on the bull market, sometimes it's easier to be a lazy trader on this because you want to stay the cycle, even on a crazy OpenAI deal news and stuff like that. But really, to me, we would have to close under 605 for 1 week straight. And then I'll say the bull market is in trouble. And to be honest, I even give that a little bit of a room because 577 is the 1 year 50% Fibonacci, which is closer to here, coinciding more with those May lows. So to me, the market has room. This was way overbought in terms of just this straight chugging along. You had also been, this is last thing on this, totally normal. We have been running just straight line ahead since May 12th, 5 months straight. Look at this acceleration. We went from 575 all the way to 675, a clean 100 points. And now it's just taking a little bit of a breather. Stochastic momentum mix saying it's taking more of a breather than it did during the fall, a very short-term fall. If you remember, in the first week of August, that was nothing. From 640 to 620, people were freaking out. And what happened? New all-time highs. Let me just repeat to you, the new all-time highs was 7 days ago in this market. Let's get in the internals and let's look more in depth on what is moving the market. So today, there's only two areas that had big movers upwards. I know the SPY had a positive day, up 60, Dow up 55, BIPs, Qs up 65. The small caps, they sold off a little bit, down 65. But Stables had a nice day, up 1.4% here. This group, obviously defensive, peaked in March, okay, $84 here, a big candle, basically a bullish engulfing. It didn't really overtake the wick there, but the highest RSI you've seen since August 21st, since it had those local highs back at $84, call it. So now what, XLP, if you're in this or considering, I think this had a nice run. I think this essentially began on September 29th, even though it went lower. I like the doji here. And this started at $77. And yes, to $80, not a massive move in XLP. Is actually not a massive move for many ETFs and stocks, but it is for XLP, a very low average true range stock. And a target for me would be 80, tops 80 half. So I think maybe looks like they're almost upset that the bell rang here because they closed it right at the highs. It probably does want to get to its 200-day moving average, which is flat at 80.43. Maybe it gets to you there, which is about another 70 cents or so, or 1% higher. And I think that would be your nice sell signal. Nice curling up in the internals, I'll be honest, but given the environment, I understand why this trade is working now, but I don't want to personally get long here in Staples. If anything, volatility is rising, although today it came in. Maybe you sell like 81 calls, but I don't think you're really going to get paid. It's Staples after all. But today they did buy Staples. This trade continued adding 1.4%. The other area today, only two that really had multiple standard deviation movers, was Brazil. Brazil coming off of highs here at the end of September at 31.5. Today, a big day, up 1.6% for EWZ. This one looks... So let me move the box here. This one I have a couple things to say. So obviously want to give respect and credit to something with a rising 200-day moving average here. A nice looking candle. It's really stuck the floor at 28.75. It's been above those levels since Labor Day. Be careful with this one. They could give up the ghost any second on this. It has not really, it's not even at a 50 RSI. So I want to see it do a little bit more, to be honest. I'd almost rather, to me in the setup that I'm envisioning in my head, I'd almost rather pay when it closes above 29.80 just to see that it has some kind of momentum to stick the landing with a 31.5 target. So I literally need another day or two because I don't know if it's going to do it. And 29.80, the reason I'm calling that out is it's the 21-day exponential moving average. I just want to see this has improving sentiment through price. Still not convinced on it. Sub 50 RSI, and really those candles aren't super convincing. Today looks great. They have been green, but just want to see a little bit more given all the momentum that's fell off. But a one close above 29.80 on this, and I do think you can start to lock into a maybe like a 30-31 or 30-31 half December call spread, something like that for EWZ. But give this a little bit, maybe one more day. But EWZ looking all right. Today, the early ones are trying to sniff into it, I think, up 1.6%. Now let's get a look at some of the losers. Some were massive, some I've supported, and some are your year-over-year leaders. I'll just give you a hint on that. GDX, the biggest standard deviation move lower today, almost reminded me of S&P last week. New all-time highs here. And then what happens the next day? A significant give back, not as much as the S&Ps, but significant give back. Also just want to comment, yesterday, the all-time high for GDX, we hit on RSI 74. Definitely not bad, but it was 84 as it cranked up to the highs. And then what happens? Look at this candle today. You want to know what the absolute low tick got to today? It actually got to, let me look just for you home gamers. So I said the 21-day exponential moving average. It's not, witchcraft or black magic or something. It got right there and it came back up. Also in terms of the RSI, still holding 56 RSI, which it's held since August 4th. Don't see anything wrong with the trade. This is what happens in this volatile group, especially in terms of percent return that it's given since last year. Look how extended this is. The 200-day moving average is at 52, and the thing touched 85. So let's take it easy. Flows still absolutely great. It's still kicking spies, but I want to be involved. The only thing with this is I want this to correct through time versus price, because this has just such a long line of buyers since August 25th. So this is kind of a messy, I don't know, example in my head, kind of like a messy drink line at a show. It's just there's really no, it's very amorphous. So you want to get this a little bit of dust to shake out. The only thing I'll add is it did close down 6.8%. They sent it as low as 77.18, and they bought it again up $2, going right with those early October highs, or like earlier, 2 weeks ago. So give this a little bit of time. To be frank, what I would still rather in terms of entry is, it sounds crazy, but I want to get in around $77. So if you were super fast to hit the trigger today, and you got on the absolute low $77, that's what I'm targeting, that 21-day exponential. That is where I think things will look forward in your favor. My outlook for this is still about $82, $83. You get the meat in there when you get to 77 on spot. I would go with probably like a 77, 83, maybe December call spread on that. Otherwise, maybe sell the 75 puts, see what you get paid, because this group could move a little bit more. The next 2 weeks, it's going to need time to stabilize. But again, this group has not fell below its 21-day exponential moving average since August. So give a little credit where it's due. And absolutely just superstar run GDX. I'm not going to say anything bad about it. Besides, it could be volatile for the future. If you get it under 77, it will reward you. The next group that really, I didn't want to make this just the metals show, but they exited the metals trade today and just taking profits. I'm not going to say exited. I take that word back. But silver, as I said on Spaces the other day, you can wake up and this thing's down 7%. I was almost there. Today down 4.5%. Highs yesterday on silver again since Labor Day, essentially overbought. On the highs yesterday, RSI of 85. The thing was absolutely ratcheting higher. And then today, boom, with that drop of 4.5%, we're all the way back here to 68 RSI in silver. As I look at the charts on a different time frame, pretty much what I said goes for GDX, goes for silver. Obviously, metals correlated trade. Let the dust settle on this for about somewhere around 2 weeks. I would start to really, we'll get into some equities, some ETFs where you should be probably not levering up, but you're getting more long. I think it's becoming time, as opposed to the metals trade, which just got super extended. For this, I'd want to enter right around 43.75 to 44. So I still want $3 to come off there. So I still need another, 5-ish%. This thing, my gosh, above, this is absolutely crazy to, establish an RSI above 62 RSI since August 29th, when the SLV was trading 36. So a crazy move, 36 to 48. That's, a third in just the ETF alone. So give this time. If you can get in with a 44 handle, I like your chances a lot more. This trade is not over. And then another big mover lower today. They sold off gold miners, taking profits, silver. And then the other thing, it's not telling you taking profits because it hasn't been up. Volatility down 7.5% today. That is a big move, okay? A lot of people talking about volatility over the past week and such. We will, so this is it. Yeah, so a couple things on volatility. Is it breaking out here? You are at the August level. So you're at 2-month highs. Does it have I think this has it, like I said, S&P is going to try and stabilize next week around that 663, 662 level. This would imply that this goes a touch higher. They closed this pretty much on the lows, 36.78. Yes, pretty much. That's 7.5%. People wanted to sell it more. This was not ready for the moment of 42.5. The 200-day is there at 47. The RSI this week on the scare got as high as it did since the 52-week highs back in April for volatility for VXX. So a monster run here, honestly, from 33 to 42. Congrats if you captured it. The 52-week lows for VXX still lie in September. They preceded the highs in the S&P by about a month when it hit that oversold behavior on September 18th. So all that being said, I don't expect this to have much more above 50 RSI. Once it trickles below, it'll probably be a 35 handle. that has probably continued to resume to the downside. But again, this will probably I don't think it's going to make it run to the 200 moving average. I don't think there's that much fear in the market. People just realize that you couldn't just always sell volatility. It would just always work. So this strategy came home to roost this week when this thing went from 33 to 42. And today you got a little bit back in your pocket, down 7.5%. And of course, this weekend, see what Trump says about the whole China trade war, soybean versus cooking oil, etc. But again, I don't think this has much more to do. I think 40 was the ceiling for me, if you told me going into this week. And I do think over the next 2 weeks, this is headed to about $34 is my take. So that's my call on VXX. A big move lower today, 7.5%. All right, let's look now at the top 3 gainers of the past 5 days. This is super important because there's a lot of noise this week, a lot of messiness. What actually happened upside this week? Number 1 place to be, up 10%, South Korea. No one told South Korea anything about the messiness in the world this week. South Korea, this is a new 52-week high. The all-time highs are back from Jan 2021, those crazy COVID days. This was a $96 ETF. I love catch-up trades if there's upside ahead, and that's what I see here at 96. That is 8 points away, or almost 10%. Great looking candle today, up 73 bips, and again 52-week high today, up 10% this week, an average of 2% a day. So just a monster rip. A little bit of a divergence here at 69 RSI. Don't love to see that. Could tell me that there's a move to 83 happening in the short term. And to be honest, this has had a pretty, messy but crazy run higher. That's 10% in a short amount of time. The country doesn't usually move like this. 200-day looks great. Obviously picking up some momentum. I would stay away from this right here. If you get in at 83 or under 83, then take your chances. This is reaching a little bit. But South Korea, the best performing ETF this entire week, up 10%, moving like a semi company. All right, number 2, speaking of semi company, that moving like one, Taiwan up 6%. So not as much as South Korea, but this is where the dollars flooded into this week. Okay, don't let the news and kind of things scare you off. S&P giving way or something like that. They were flooding into, and notice what I'm going to look at, the losers too. Money going in, money coming out. Taiwan up 10%. South Korea up 10%. Taiwan up 6%. Let's look at this chart. 52-week high for these guys. Like I said, the highs for these guys go back to Jan 2022 at $68. That's $3 away. Like a magnet, it will get to it. Nice trading here. 52-week high yesterday. A little bit messy. I wouldn't want to chase this either unless it's a $64 and under. That's where I would want to target an entry. $64 and a target of 66. So a little more tighter tactical trade. 64, 66 December call spread jumps out at me, or even possibly November for Taiwan. So not immediately setting up. It has a red day, then go for it. It's had a beautiful week, up 6% today, just a flat digestion day for Taiwan. And then number 3, this is crazy. If you looked at the news and stuff, and what happens with people saying, is SPY going to sell off? SMH was the 3rd best place to be this week, up nearly 6%. Okay, yes, 5 days ago, it was coming from an ugly level there and everything else, down 6% that day. But hey, up 6% is up 6%. Let's take a look at the semi chart. The all-time high coming last week. So this one is, if you can get in here at 332, I think this is going to have a nice 2 weeks, and it's going to pull the market higher. This is synonymous with what I'm saying, with the market's going to base next week around that 663-ish level is what I'm saying here. That beta is going to have benefits. It's going to have a nice 2 weeks here. If you get in around 332, it's $11 off from here. So probably going to test your patience. But that would be a great entry. And again, the target is 352. And that would be new all-time highs. And I am seeing that by early to mid-November, I would say, but by Thanksgiving. So again, maybe like a 330, 350 call spread. Maybe even tighten that up so it's less cost for November or probably December. So the semis are looking good. If you can get in under 332 and under, I think that's a beautiful setup for semis. 3rd best. So again, a tech week. It wasn't just all the names that the quantum computing, some air came out of those. But South Korea up 10%, Taiwan up 6%, semis up 5.5 to 6%. So they definitely flooded into Samsung, Taiwan Semi, Nvidia, Broadcom, etc. So the AI trade is still in second innings. Top 3 losers of the past 5 days. What did they sell? Let's focus on this. Bitcoin, the worst week of any ETF. The worst week. Down 9%. Today, down 1.5%. Like I always say, watch how it trades into all weekend. The all-time highs for IBIT, basically $72 on October the 6th. It had a gross divergence here. The RSI couldn't even get to 68. That's not good. That day, we said, look out. Yes, we're trading $72, but we could easily be trading 65. And here we are here at 61. Look at the 200 moving average. It actually touched it, or it came very close to it today. Bitcoin has not done that since April 10th. You want to look closely for this because that is going to examine the risk-off sentiment. If you see this happening in a broader, very risk-on asset like Bitcoin, the leader over the past 10 years, then it's probably or very likely going to have ramifications for SPY and QQQ. I want to know that. So this is down to a 36 RSI. That is the lowest IBIT has had since just before the lows. I mean, you got to go back to February, March. So that's important to understand. And they have sold it, and it's only had one green day since the 7th. So since the high, a lot of folks said, okay, I'm selling out, and we'll come back in another time. A lot of exiting on October 7th. Now, let's look at the charts just straight up. And what does this tell me here? I don't love that it's been getting its butt kicked by SPY this past week. It really did not have a good week, down 9%. I don't like to see that, the relative loss versus SPY. That was quite a bit of a turnoff. I think it is nearing that 60 base here. I think that 200-day moving average is, last thing on this, just a kid with a good report card. When you have one close in the past year under the 200-day moving average, and it was April 8th, the day the SPY was trading at 52-week low, I'm going to give you credit when you even just tap it and you get like a C- in class. That's okay. Okay, so I think the 59 holds, to be frank. If you get in under 60, like I'm giving levels for other assets, this one will reward you. This one will very likely bounce to 65. I don't want to say about Halloween. That's a little bit too soon, but there's a lot of energy, I believe, in Bitcoin. I don't think the end is coming by any means, considering the all-time high also just came 11 days ago, and my amnesia is not that wicked. So, yes, this is ugly, and you had some big flushes here. That was significant, on the 10th, the down 4%. But I think $59 to $60 entries will reward you, and I think you're looking at a 10% increase. I think it's going to hold before you know it, in about 2 to 3 weeks, so early November. I think you're looking at these levels. It will take a little bit longer to get to all-time highs. I still think it happens probably maybe closer to December for IBIT. Okay, but IBIT, the worst week of any ETF, down 9%. I think it's setting up, and you got 10% coming over the next 2 weeks. All right. And then I have to zoom in on this. So again, South Korea, I'm making this for a point. South Korea added 10%. Taiwan added 6%. The semis complex added 5.5%. Bitcoin, I'll give you that, down 9%. The next area I have to look at was natural gas that lost 4%. Okay, so nat gas doesn't really have earnings, small commodity essentially, and it's down 4%. I couldn't even find many losers. Okay, and here's the thing for nat gas, looking at this just on a chart basis, down 4%. It's had a nasty week for sure. I think it's almost done. I actually like the floor. I mean, it hit 52-week lows today. Let me not speak out of line. This looks like a 52-week low for nat gas, 11.5. Yikes. I think it bases around there, around 11.5, and over the next 2 weeks, it will get to about 12.5. So not, I don't know if anyone has dedicated nat gas positions. Sorry, you had a nasty week, but I do think there's a light coming for you over the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's probably not going to really make it worth it in the position as this thing just continues to go and crater lower. Wow. New 52-week low for nat gas here. This was all the rage back in March at $24 and now down more than half. Really, the jury was out in mid to late June. Once you really started to break here $15, there was really no reason to get new UNG. Interesting movement here this past 2 weeks as it got above 60 RSI for the first time in many months, and it made it go to 14 spot. But look at it right there on October 2nd, hit 1407, and then straight Dikembe'd right down ever since. So that being said, like I said, I think this has a move to 1250 over the next 2 to 3 weeks in nat gas. But it was the second worst place to be in after Bitcoin. And then number 3, a lot of talks, as we said, about the bad loans and regional banks. Jefferies had some big moves, everything like that. First big moves in the carry since April. Let's take a look at the chart. This thing is down 2%. Today was up 1.6. It's down 2% over the past 5 days. Okay, and a lot of people are crying and saying that the economy's over and all that. The 200-day moving average, just so we know, it's held support. It's a flat line here at 60 even. Real simple math. Carry has been holding that largely, I will say, since June 27th. No problem, but definitely hitting its head at 67. For honestly, the next week or so, it's probably going to try and have a rally to about the 62 to 63 area. And I think it's a risky trade because this has not shown, as I said, the 50 RSI thing for EWZ. I'm not convinced. So this hasn't had a 50 RSI since September 23rd. I don't like to see an ETF losing that tug of war on a consistent basis. I do like the flush out here. And if you didn't want to be in regionals, then you got out of it. It's going to be magnetized to that 60.01. Like I said, this probably gets to 62.5 to 63 over the next week or so, then sells off, and then it's just going to be more range bound. I just don't personally. It's crazy with all the volatility in the trade. I think that 57 floor holds, and then you have a ceiling 63. You could sell strangles. There's volatility in the group. Yeah, you could do that as well. So regional banks, the third worst place to be this week, down 2%. 2%. Okay. Top 3 trades of the past 5 days. So how would you have nailed this week? Long South Korea, short IBIT, long Taiwan. You absolutely massacred the stock market this week, protected and nearly double-digit gains across the board. Top 3 trades of the past 52 weeks. My favorite part, really when we zoom out and take a look at what is noise and what is truth. From last October 17th through today, your number 1 leader, apropos, we're talking about it today, a huge down day, down 8%, coming off of the highs yesterday at $112 down to $104 is GDXJ. This is number 1 ETF year over year, up 101%. So yes, if you're not super good with math, it's doubled year over year. Like I said, an entry for me, be on the lookout because this thing has flash kind of crash lows on this. If you can get in at 100 even, make it nice and easy for your head to remember. If you get in at 100 even, I would participate. You could buy the common stock. You could do the 100, 110 November or December call spreads. Check the liquidity on those. You can do a couple things. You can also sell these 98 puts, and you pick the duration. But give this area, like I said, the dust is still settling. But if you get in around 100, beautiful reward, in my opinion. And the potential target is still 108 to 110. Again, this had a bad day. You were singing its praises yesterday, coming off of 52-week highs. The all-time highs for this group is back in 2010 at 179. We were talking about this last thing on this. Most overbought ever. Yeah, cool. It just lets me know that folks want to be in the group. Look at the curling. The group hasn't done anything since September 2020, and now folks want it, obviously due to the correlation of the gold trade, and you get some equity since these are actually the junior gold miners. More growth is just a great place to be, and it's risk on, and that's why it's really working in this environment. It is the trade of the past year, up 101%. As I said, don't overcomplicate it. Get in at 100. It's going up 10%. I'm probably looking for those highs, probably closer to late November. But one day does not a trend make. You can't sing all the praises, and then it doesn't even get to 21 day. I just like what I'm seeing there in GDXJ. Number 2, ARK, up 84% year over year. Woo, up 84%, and that is number 2. Okay, it's not IBIT. Number 3 is IBIT. I'll give you a teaser. And right here, the setup for ARK, I'll tell you. So the highs are still back in 2021. This is a $160 name. Guys, this has to get to 100 first, and then the 2x game, and then you get, then you get 2x from there to here to there to new all-time highs. I still believe we're in that kind of a market. This is held. Look at this beautiful chart. Over 45 RSI since 2 weeks after the SPY lows. They went right back into Kathy here. This peaked 52-week highs October 8th. Last 9 days ago at $93, and then a quick fall. I think this is basing right here. If you're able to get in under $86 on, say, maybe bad tweets this weekend or some sort of macro scare. If you can get in under 86, honestly, even under 86.5, I kind of like it here. It might frustrate you in the near term a little bit, but this thing looks headed to $93 in about 2 weeks. This one looks good right here, honestly. So I don't want to jump into the whole option chain and everything else, but what would stand out to me is doing the November 87, like 93 call spread, something like that, and check that out. Also, I just kind of want to see what you get paid. It's ARK. Maybe you sell these 81 puts and you go out 2 weeks, you go out 4 weeks and keep on rolling it. And that's kind of like an income engine for your portfolio. But this looks great. I love that it's not even cresting and breaking under the 50 RSI. That is really a stupendous looking chart. They had one ugly day last week for 5.5%. And, overall, somewhat of a constructive week. Today down 0.5%. Like the setup here in ARK, your number 2 leader year over year. Something standing out to me for that. And then IBIT, I'm not going to kick it again because we talked about it while it was included in the worst week of any ETF, down 9%, but it's had the third best year of any ETF. There is a little bit of bloom off the rose. It's up 59% only, right? 1% a week and change, right? But before we talk about GDXJ 101, ARK 84, IBIT was leading those, right? So to me, I still think give us a little bit of time. I think Bitcoin needs another tops a week to settle. I think it may have another maybe flirtation with a 200A. Probably not, though, because folks will swarm into crypto. But I think it'll base here that 60 will be your floor. And I think, like I said, before you know, you're looking at 65. That's not the all-time highs, but that's still a beautiful gain of nearly 10%. 60, 65 November call spreads jump out to me on that, or even longer because I want to ride IBIT for a while. So again, year-over-year leaders, don't get confused for just the noise this week. They flocked into South Korea and Taiwan. They sold off Bitcoin. Bitcoin's setting up, I think, right here if you get into it. So let's take a look at what the markets bring this week and what happens next week. And I will be hopefully around for much more videos next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Peace.